going.
Paul, I don't seem to have a share screen option on mine, so are you able to bring it up?
I can do, yeah. So not at the bottom of the...
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes, maybe I have. Yeah. Okay. I'll try and load up the first one and see if we get
Yeah, so if you want to put your slide up, and then we can go from there.
Hang on a sec.
And David D, if you're okay to man the admit, keep your eye on the participants panel, because there's still people coming in. So I'm going to need you to be the gatekeeper, if that's all right.
Right. Let's go.
You can already start having to think about the question, which is, what do we need to do to be tackling climate change across Ryedale? That's going to be the key question of the night. So if you've already got some ideas on that, and warm up your chat. And
sorry, folks, I'm having a bit of difficulty getting the screen up. We've got a slightly weird setup on our computers, which is, I think, causing me a little bit of a problem. I think it might be better, Paul, if you've got it
to
there.
show it from my end.
Could you do it? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem at all.
Save any more hassle. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. So it's here. Let me just, I'll go to full screen mode. So it means again that David, if you could keep your eye out on chat and that sort of thing, but it'll be a bit better when we come to the interactive part. So let me see, let's see if I can get my screen working. I think I can put it into full screen. So hopefully that's okay, John. So I'll just rely on you to say, yeah, next, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, there's a few little fly-ins and things, so you might need a double tap occasionally, but I'll let you know.
Perfect. Good
Great.
stuff.
Okay. Well, thanks to everybody for joining this evening, and thanks for inviting me to give a talk as part of Environment Week in Ryedale. As I think most people will know, I'm new to the post. I joined Ryedale at the beginning of September, so already a couple of months actually, nearly. So yeah, it still feels like a new job, I must admit. I thought I'd just start with a quick introduction to myself. I won't spend too much time on this, but hopefully it'll just set the scene a little bit from my background. I mean, I've worked in environmental science really all my career. I have an environmental science degree from Stirling University in Scotland. I started off with a bit of research work and worked for the Institute of Hydrology in Scotland for about 5 years. And then I had a short spell in a local authority, and then really went into private sector consultancy work. And I've largely done that for most of my career. And that's primarily been environmental impact assessment or related sort of studies. I had a short time with DEFRA quite recently, based in York, and that was fascinating. I was working on the Environmental Land Management Programme, which is coming in pretty soon, and I'm sure perhaps there may be some questions around that later. I had a short spell back doing some really interesting consultancy with Arcus Consulting before I came to Ryedale, and that was primarily on large-scale renewable energy projects, getting them through the planning system. And yeah, then that brought me to this very interesting and challenging but very rewarding job at Ryedale. Okay, next slide, please. So yeah, if you can just tap and tap again. So before I joined, Ryedale had already declared a climate emergency. That was back at the end of last year. And then as part of that, they set a net zero carbon target of 2050 at the latest. We can perhaps have a bit of discussion around that afterwards. I think, you know, a number of councils that have done similar have set earlier targets than that. And I think there's a case for us perhaps doing the same, but we'll come on to that. And they also set up a climate change action plan, which was in place when I joined. And the final part of the jigsaw was my post being agreed and me being employed. So the council has declared a climate emergency and made a quite a thorough and ambitious commitment, I think, which is on the slide there. And I'm just going to use that as the sort of base for the next part of the presentation to explain what is going on currently and then where we hope to go with the climate change action plan. The next slide, please. And another tap. So the climate change commitment that the council have signed up to is split into a number of sections. The first being we will set an example, and that is two main elements really: increasing the knowledge and awareness of climate change issues across the council. So that's across the members, the officers, and all departments within the council, and build climate change considerations into our council plan, decision making, and service delivery plans. And beneath that, there's a lot of activity. So we, for example, are working directly. I'm working directly with the planning department and the waste department, environmental health department, to make sure that all of the service delivery plans fully take account of the climate change agenda. Next tap, please. And reducing our own carbon emissions as a council by using green technologies and suppliers and becoming more efficient in our use of energy, water, and other resources. So under that, we have already shifted the council's energy purchase to npower's green tariff. There's quite an interesting story there, which has come to light, which we can talk about a bit later, but we're also investigating how we can potentially employ renewable energy technologies on the council property and land. Devolution, I think, has, or the potential for devolution and those sort of issues have created probably a bit of a delay in that, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty about the future of Ryedale House particularly. There are plenty of other assets that the council own that we can look at putting renewable technologies in. We've also done some work with the Energy Saving Trust and have put together a green travel plan for the council, and that is going to bring in some quite significant changes to the way officers and potentially in the future members utilise vehicles and hopefully reduce mileage, but switch to using electric vehicles in some point in the future. Next one, please. So just looking at a little bit more detail of these issues, we've committed to delivering energy conscious projects such as replacing streetlights that we own with energy efficiency LED and parts night lighting. That program is underway now, and quite a bit of the district has already seen a replacement of the LED lighting, and we're planning to roll that out across the whole district over the next couple of years. We're introducing electric vehicle charging points in key locations. We've got a contract running right now actually to put electric charging points in the long stay car parks in each of the main towns. And we're hoping to extend that to other locations across the district in the not too distant future. We're also doing quite a lot of work with the waste management and waste collection side of the council. And I think we had some discussions about that earlier in the week about recycling. I've seen quite a bit on chatter on the Facebook page, so that would be an interesting one to talk about a bit later. A particular issue seems to be for us in Ryedale about what can and can't be recycled. And I think it is pretty unclear at the moment for many people. So one thing I think we can take away from today and this week is that the council can do better on that front. We'll encourage others to act responsibly by requiring that new building developments are planned to be as sustainable as possible. What I'm hoping to do, and we really haven't kind of got off the ground quite yet with this, but is with the planning department, go as far as we can within the planning system to really require developers in our district to put sustainability at the front of their development proposals. It takes quite a bit of work to achieve that, but there's some good models out there, some other councils that are doing this already, and I think there's plenty more we can do at Ryedale. We're trying to support community based schemes which contribute to reduction in climate change. So part of my remit is to work with Ryedale Environment Group and the local groups, provide support to their activities and help them with getting funding and those sort of issues, and in some cases stimulating new project ideas. And we are promoting the practical action that businesses and individuals can take to reduce carbon emissions in Ryedale. I haven't yet quite decided how best to sort of promote and disseminate that information, so that would be a useful point to discuss after the presentation. I know my colleagues in the economic development team have a variety of means by which they communicate, such as newsletters and by LinkedIn and that sort of thing. So I'd be interested to hear the views of people as to how we can best communicate these things. Next slide, please. So what is in the pipeline? Some new ideas and developments that I hope to bring with me as the climate change officer for Ryedale. Could you tap again? Yeah, more renewable energy. That's fine, thanks. There's relatively little, as far as I can tell, renewable energy projects in Ryedale compared to a number of other local authorities. And I think, you know, there perhaps hasn't been the attractive environment or climate within the council to support renewable energy projects. The other main issue we've got is that there's a real limit in terms of grid capacity and grid connections in the district. So we are having some discussions with Northern Power Grid about that, and where there might be opportunities to increase that capacity and provide more grid connection points. So I know there's some discussions going on in the district about a large-scale solar project, which would be fantastic if we can bring that to the district. And I think part of my role, what I'm trying to do is just bring people together to make those sort of things possible. There's the Circular Molten and Norton biogas AD project, which I think is very interesting. And I really would like to see an AD project come to life in the district. Again, I think the issue there is going to be proximity to a grid connection and understanding the waste streams that are available. And also there is speaking with my colleague on the waste side at the council, there is an issue really about the existing contract and where waste goes currently. But I think those are all issues that can be resolved, and it would be a great project. I think one of the other fascinating little projects we have in the district is Howsham Mill, which I imagine local people all know about, but that's a very, very successful small-scale hydro scheme on the River Derwent, just south of Bolton, and a really good project. And I don't know, but I wonder whether there's scope for further small-scale hydro within the district. It's something we need to look at. I really want to promote renewable heat options across the district, and I think one of the areas where we can really look at that is village halls and parish council, town council buildings. And there is quite a bit of funding available right now for that, for renewable heat projects in public buildings. So that's something I want to try and develop over the coming months. And then many of you may have got wind of this geothermal heat or energy project that is being mooted by Third Energy. I'm sure that will raise some concerns and issues for a lot of people with the history of Third Energy. But I've had a number of meetings with them now, and there does seem to be a genuine interest in moving completely away from the fracking use of their gas assets to looking at alternatives, and geothermal is potentially a realistic alternative. So the council is actually applying for funding from the Heat Network Delivery Unit, which is a Department of Hays, to look at the opportunities for geothermal heat in the Ryedale district. We can talk about in a moment. Next slide, please. And I just thought I'd put a slide up to prompt some of the other issues that we are looking at and some of the other opportunities. Hopefully all the local folk that are on the call know about the Walton to Pickering cycle network. Could you just tap that one? There's a little bike that should fly in. There he is. So that is in development, and the design work has been done, I think, and the construction phase of the cycle path is going to commence quite soon, and I believe the path should be open and running by summer next year. And I want to look at opportunities to do more similar projects to that. I think the district would benefit from more cycle paths, dedicated cycle paths, and I think there's good opportunity to do that. So I'll be interested to hear from people what their views on that will be. Another tap, please. Food waste, we are going to look at the opportunities to introduce a curbside food waste collection across the district, and this could tie in very well with the exploration of this biogas plant in Norton, Walton Norton. Other councils do this quite effectively and remove the food waste from the black bag residual waste at source, and I think this is probably the way we're going to try and go in Ryedale. Next tap. The other part of the action plan, which we haven't really made much progress or really started on yet, is looking at carbon sequestration projects and carbon storage. And so I've started talking to some of the larger landowners and had some discussions with the National Park about peat restoration work that needs doing up on the moor. So in the fullness of time, I hope we're going to put together a local carbon offsetting program, which will allow individuals and businesses to do some carbon offsetting right here in the district. A number of larger landowners are already expressed an interest in providing the necessary land for that sort of activity. And actually, in investigating this, I discovered we have some quite rare lowland bog in the district on the Castle Howard estate. So there are some really interesting opportunities to do some of this work really local. And I think that's going to become quite a significant part of the action plan. Next tap, please. I'm a big fan of car clubs. I don't know if anyone on the call has experience of using them. They're more typically available and used in larger urban areas, but I think there is a place for them in our district. And it may well be that the green travel plan that we implement for the council involves car club cars being located at strategic points across the district. These are two of the sort of leading car club companies, and it's a very effective way of reducing carbon emissions from transport, because increasingly the cars that they provide are hybrid or full electric. Last app, please. And again, in investigating the tree planting and woodland creation sort of opportunities in the district, I've been having some discussions with a couple of the larger landowners about rewilding projects. And it may seem interesting and ambitious opportunity to do in Ryedale, but I think, you know, there is some real interest in the district to do some of this work. And the new agricultural support program, the environmental land management program I mentioned earlier, is certainly going to provide funding to allow that sort of project to happen. What it will need is collaborative working between a number of landowners, but I do hope that's a project that we can develop. And you know, the carbon aspect of that will be quite significant, I think. Next slide, please. Finally, the area that I really want to develop is supporting community energy projects across the district. There's the local electricity bill going through Parliament at the moment, and this will be a bit of a game changer really for local small-scale community energy projects. I think there's a number of groups and community groups and areas in the district that are keen to look at this. We've had some discussions already with Northern Power Grid, and they seem supportive in providing the necessary infrastructure for this in the future. So I think this is going to be something that we can really look forward to and make some plans for from now on, really. As I mentioned earlier, there's some money available through the public sector decarbonisation program at the moment. So I think, you know, as we go into the new year, these are some real projects that we can develop. Next slide, please. Okay, well, that's given you hopefully a broad overview of the work that we are currently doing in the district council, and I really want to pass it over to you now to tell me, and we'll have some discussion about the priorities that we see for the district over the coming years. Thank you very much.
Okay, perfect. That's brilliant. Thanks, John. That's done more than enough to just to start generating some questions. So
Yeah.
process is here. I'll come over to David in a second, and David will start feeding the questions in. Some just, I guess, feeding on your behalf. Some will invite you to unmute and share your questions directly. Just a note on the time. I think we are due to finish about 8:45. I guess, John, if you're not going anywhere and we need a little bit longer, then are you okay till?
Yeah, no problem.
If we need to, of course, if people need to leave, of course, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
We will save all the chat as well, so you know, we won't lose any of the detail.
Yeah.
But the plan was as well. I know technology has not been our friend tonight, but hey, so is to try and capture at least, you know, some of the key themes coming out on the whiteboard. So I guess between us, between David fielding the questions and John responding to those and getting a bit of discussion going, and me trying to then capture the key kind of things coming out on the whiteboard, we might get somewhere. So David, where do we start, do you think?
Okay, well, I'm going to just start with the questions as they first started rolling in.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask Caroline if she wants to ask her question that she asked the very first question we had.
Hello, mine was about what we can do to support landowners and farmers to adopt more sustainable ways of farming.
Yeah, okay, well, that's a very good place to start. As you may be aware, that the whole process of leaving the EU is giving us an opportunity in the UK. Well, in England, it's a devolved thing, so we're just talking about England, but to introduce this new farm support program, and that was the team that I worked in for a couple of years at EFRA. The new system is called the Environmental Land Management System, and it basically is going to replace the current Common Agricultural Policy sort of payment stuff, and it is all centered around environmental performance, really. So farmers under this new program are only going to get government support, if you like, and financial support if they put together an environmental land management plan for their farm and take very clear steps to enhance and improve the environmental performance of the farm. So it is a major shift. I mean, it's going to be brought in over quite an extended period of time to allow farmers to change. But as their basic payments, the current way they're paid now, goes down, this new funding will sort of come in. But they won't be able to just carry on as normal. They will have to employ more sustainable methods of farming. And I think what is really exciting about it is it will encourage and give farmers a realistic money and income to do more environmentally conscious farming, and to plant more trees, for example, you know, to use those areas of the farm that are not too productive to create new woodland, to plant pollinator species, you know, for wildflower areas and that sort of thing. So it's quite a significant change, and I think probably for the first time for a generation or two, it will lead to quite a significant change in the way farming is done in this country. But it's the pilot for it is, I think, starting next year. So it's going to be over about 4 or 5, maybe longer years before you really sort of see the benefit of that.
That's encouraging.
Okay, well, we've got quite a lot of questions, and I think probably I'm going to ask Eden to come on, and he got a question really around onshore wind.
Right, yeah, thank you, John. Ryedale planners were faced with quite an impressive, I thought, wind farm project a few years ago. It was up on Staxton Brow. If everybody knows where that is, depending on your view, I think it would have been magnificent. Others possibly think it would have been loathsome. But the planning committee, well, refusal was recommended, and indeed that's what happened. Have attitudes changed? It is, after all, the cheapest form of renewable energy. Yeah,
I mean, I think whether or not attitudes have changed, I honestly don't know. But the likelihood of onshore wind farm projects in England at the moment is pretty much zero. The government sort of stance on it is such that they're just not being developed, and you know, all of the developer companies have stopped pursuing those sort of projects, unfortunately. The Scottish government have taken a different approach, and wind is still seen as a, you know, viable and commercial project in Scotland. The government are really putting all of their sort of support behind offshore wind, and I think we're going to see an enormous expansion of that in the next few years. But I really don't see onshore projects coming forward. I mean, I would imagine that developer wouldn't even you know, bother putting a plan together now with the current state of things. I think, you know, for us in Ryedale, there is really a good opportunity for large scale solar, and we're seeing quite a few big projects in and around us, but not in Ryedale just yet. So I think large scale solar is much more likely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Hazel Winter has got a question. Hazel, do you want to ask John yourself about climate change?
The one about communication. Yeah, at the moment we find it quite difficult, I think, to actually find anything via the website, because there isn't just one area which deals with climate change. So you have to go to a lot of different departments to find different things out.
You're talking about the council website.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just wondered what proposals you had to improve communication.
Yes, I think that's a very valid point. In fact, that's the point I made during my my interview for the job, that I didn't find it particularly helpful. And yes, I mean, you know, we have got a very good climate change action plan, and quite a bit of progress has been made in that since it was put together. But it's not easy to identify and find and get the details. Yeah, I think it's a very valid point, and I guess I haven't been around long enough to sort of influence that, but I hope to in the near future. We've got some very good communications people in the district council, actually, so I think they just need the material to work with. So that is something for me to take on board and improve. I mean, it'd be interesting just to get your response on what sort of additional things you'd like to see there. I mean, would you like to see the sort of detail about, for example, the recycling issues? I mean, that seems to.
Yeah, the recycling seems to have come up a lot.
Yes.
Over this last week.
Yeah.
But also things like energy efficiency in your own home.
Yeah.
You have to make the effort to go and find out about that yourself, rather than.
Yes, that's very true. And you know, there is funding streams available right now, and I think we're probably not, you know, making that information widely available through our website. So I was thinking about doing some kind of regular newsletter or you know, online sort of facility of some sort. And I actually, well, I mean, that could just hang off the district council website. I did wonder whether to tie it in with the Ryedale Environment group, though, and maybe it would be better on that website and their social media sort of things, as a way of just sort of getting people more connected with the environment group.
Yeah, we do have a
feel about that.
We do have a slot once a month as well with the Gazette.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
so whether you could include something on that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'd love to have you on board, John, and we'll do everything we can to support communication.
Okay.
Loads more questions. I'm going to ask Helen Gundry. Helen was a speaker on our last event immediately prior to this. So she's from Moors Plus and also the Ryedale Cycle Forum. So Helen, do you want to, you've got quite a few questions, so I think you're probably going to have to home in one sort of specific area.
Yeah, I think it's pushing things further within the district council. That's my what I'd like to say. For instance, the two things really. The planning committee will really need pushing to make sure that developments that they are looking at have got, whether it's for retail, whether it's for industry or for housing, that they have good cycle infrastructure to get people out on the bikes, because it's just a brilliant opportunity when you've got a new development coming on, and sometimes it's seized and you know it's pretty good, and other times they just try and push it away and it doesn't happen. So so that was one thing, and the other thing is that I think there needs to be even more support within district council than yourself. I don't want to see you being lumbered with everything the district council is supposed to do with climate change, because it's the original idea was that the whole council was going to take on climate change, and it would be easy to say, oh well, John's going to do it, and it needs to be bigger than that. So it needs, I think, going back to Hazel's point on the website, it needs to be much higher profile so that everyone is taking responsibility for climate change things, not just expecting you to do it.
Yes, I think that's actually a really important point, and one I should have made. I mean, I agree with you completely. I think it's a good thing to have a dedicated in the council to drive things on, but yeah, it's not a case of it's all down to me. I'm the coordinator and the pusher and the stimulator, hopefully. And so, yes, you know, one of the priorities for me coming in has been to try and start getting round each of the different teams and different departments of the council to make sure that climate change and that whole agenda is brought into everything that we do and is systematically considered as part of service delivery plans. I haven't managed to do that quite yet with the planning team, actually, and I think they've been incredibly busy. But yes, really getting the planning advice, and I don't know how far they can go to require things, but you know, pushing for the right type of development that has sustainability and climate change built into it is something we need to do. I think up to now it's really been left to the developer to make those proposals. I think we can do more to push them in the right direction. So, you know, I hope I can to that point with the planning department, and we achieve much more in that way. Thanks.
Great, thanks very much, John. Right, well, we've got quite a lot of questions around the planning and what RDC can do to you know, make sure we have better buildings nearer carbon neutrality, better heating, and all of those sort of things, and also help for existing homeowners to retrofit various improvements that will improve their carbon footprint. I mean, my knowledge is limited on this, but is there anything that the council is planning to do that it's not doing already?
Well, this links back to the previous point, I think. I mean, I think we have to take some action with the planning services side of the council, so that there is more clear guidance and go as far as we can to require developers to take these considerations into account with their proposals. I mean, I know it's a bit of a problem for the planning officers, in that there's a sort of feeling that they can only go so far, and in quite a limited way, because they're restricted by what the planning system allows. I mean, another consideration is, you know, the planning system is being looked at by the government at the moment, and a review is going to be taking place. And if anything, the mood seems to be that is going to relax things, which could be, you know, heading in the wrong direction. So I think, you know, we can use the fact that we've declared a climate emergency. We have got an action plan. We've made some commitments, and we can push as far as we can, really, on these matters. At the end of the day, I don't think planning authorities can be hugely prescriptive, because the system doesn't really allow that, and you would then just leave yourselves open to challenge and decisions being overturned. But I do think, you know, hopefully the mood is right, and I think the member and officer support is there to go as far as we can to try and encourage developers to be more sustainable. and it's something I really want to put some time and energy in over the coming months.
Okay, thank you. We've also had quite a number of the questions touch on things around conservation and restoration, making sure we are protecting and enhancing habitat, and also using green spaces in our towns that probably are council owned bits of land for maybe community growing schemes. I mean, is there sort of anything like that on the plan at Ryedale?
That's not something I've looked at yet, and I don't think there's anything that I've inherited specifically on that. So it would be quite interesting to just develop that a little bit now, if we could. I mean, I honestly at this stage I don't know which bits of land and stuff are in the council's ownership like that in the towns in the district. I actually live just outside in Hambleton, so you know I'm not as familiar as I might be with some of these things yet. But yeah, I mean, if there are some good ideas like that, then I think we should explore them. And I'd really encourage anybody who's got a sort of community sort of project of that nature to drop it details into me. Quite happy to put my email address and contact details out there. I think, you know, there are some really nice projects like this around the country, and you know, yeah, just look at best practice and what's happening in other towns in the country, and pick up some of these ideas.
Okay, and something that's cropped up in several questions as well is, have RDC set themselves any specific measures? Do we know what I mean, I'm assuming the answer is going to be yes, but do we know what our carbon footprint is in Ryedale as a community rather than just a district council, sort of like for the whole community?
Yeah. Well, we're going through an exercise at the moment using all of the energy data and water consumption and all those sort of things for the district council, and that data actually has been collected for quite a number of years, and I'm certainly planning to have a backwards look as well as to see how that has changed over maybe the last 10 years or something. And then from now on, we are going to do that as an annual carbon footprinting, carbon accounting exercise. In fact, there is a project being led by Joss Holmes, who was doing a lot of what I'm doing now before I joined. She's moved to the Local Enterprise Partnership. I don't know if Joss, you may be on the call actually. Raise your hand if you are, Joss. And she now works at the LEP and is really responsible for coordinating all of the climate change action right across the LEP area, which is Yorkshire and Humber. So we are going to get the data behind a lot of this, which simply hasn't been there before. In terms of the wider district as a whole, I don't think, you know, yeah, that's not part of the plan at the moment. It would be a very big exercise, and maybe a, you know, rather complex one to do with any kind of, you know, realistic sort of accuracy. So I don't know. I mean, I would encourage probably, you know, community groups and you know, the parish councils, town councils, maybe they should look at doing that themselves, and we can certainly help with that. Part of the Circular Molten project, actually, which I think I saw that Sue was on. I don't know, Sue, if you wanted to say something about that, but there is a carbon footprinting tool being developed for businesses in Malton and Norton as part of that project, and I think that will be a very useful tool that can be used more widely across the district.
Yeah, I think Sue is on the call. I don't know if Sue wants to say anything about that.
Oh, she's just saying, sorry, I cannot speak now.
No, right, okay, that's fair enough. Okay, one or two other themes have been around transport, cars versus public transport, whether they're electric cars. You know, I think that there's a feeling we probably should have less cars on the road. We should be trying to come up with initiatives that will encourage people to lead that sort of lifestyle. Is there any sort of major plans in that regards?
Well, there are various projects, kind of transport projects across the district. I mean, I think under the umbrella of the Climate Change Action Plan, the main thing we're focusing on at the moment is internal sort of transport issues, because we're trying to reduce the carbon emissions from car usage across the board within the offices doing their sort of day-to-day work, and further down the road members as well. But you know, I mean, things are changing so rapidly, aren't they? COVID has had a huge impact on all of this. You know, most of the staff are still working from home currently, so car usage is drastically dropped by council employees. And you know, I think that sort of work from home approach is going to have a lasting impact. It really is. We have, as I mentioned, we've had some work done by the Energy Saving Trust, and they've developed a staff travel sort of plan for us, which is going to ultimately provide some electric vehicles as pool cars. So quite a bit of the officer sort of mileage that currently is done in private cars of all descriptions will be switched to using these electric cars. And as I mentioned, my hope is that we do that by incorporating a car club, and then those cars can become actually available for all residents, or anybody in Ryedale to use. I used a car club a lot when I lived in Aberdeen a few years ago, and they were absolutely fantastic. The co-wheeled cars were, virtually all of them by the time I left there, were at least hybrids or electrics. And it was very successful. The city council there, all of the officer mileage was done using car club cars as well. So I think, you know, we can have a smaller version that is suitable for our district of that sort of approach.
Okay, that's brilliant. And is there anything that you would sort of advise as citizens of Ryedale? I think we're all, not all from Ryedale, but I think largely from Ryedale, that we should be doing to support Ryedale Council in their initiatives?
Well, I increasingly I'm of the opinion that yeah, we all need to take our own personal responsibility and do the things that we can ourselves, make those small contributions. So there are various ways you can do a carbon budget or a carbon accounting, carbon footprinting assessment of your own kind of household, if you like, and family. And I think it's actually a really useful thing to do. And I'd be quite happy to put out some links following this as to where you might go to do that. They're simplified versions of the more, you know, detailed carbon footprinting exercise. But it's a very good thing to do, because it does reveal to you those things that are part of everyday life that do have quite a significant climate change, you know, connection, and it's easy to forget those. So yeah, I would say that's one of the things that people could start to do, and really look at where they can make some changes, small as they may be. They're all significant. And then I also think, you know, we've got a good developing community sort of spirit within the district, and we've got a number of local community groups, environmental groups. I'd absolutely encourage everybody to get more involved with those, and if there isn't one in your particular area, maybe take the lead and set one up. We've got Ryedale Environment Group as an umbrella organisation, and there's quite a lot of expertise and support there to help and encourage new groups to form. So I'd like to see that really develop as well.
Okay, well, thanks very much. There probably are one or two questions that I haven't asked. We've had quite a few. Would you be happy to provide us with some answers to those if we sent those on to you subsequently?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please do.
And we'll publish them on our website.
You can just pop my email up there if you like as a final thing, and if people want to scribble it down, I'm you know, this role that I've taken is very much an open position, and you know, one where we need to respond to you know, Ryedale residents and take on board what you would like us to do. So please do communicate directly with me. Yeah, so
Okay.
my email, I'll just shout it out, and if you could tap it in, that would be good. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Great.
Okay, well, thanks very much. I hope I've captured the themes of the questions, because a lot of questions, some sharing very similar themes.
Yeah.
But we could probably keep you here till, well, certainly 11 o'clock if we went
Okay.
down the route of each question.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So really appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much, John. I'll hand back to Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, John, and thanks, David. Thanks, everybody. As I say, never thought perhaps we'd get through all the questions, but what we'll do is, so we've got a copy of that whiteboard. We'll save that, of course, and publish that on our website and maybe Facebook page as well. And all the the content, the detailed content, and some further answers from John. And do get more involved with the Ryedale Environment Group. You know, it's building up quite a nice head of steam. So again, if you want to get more involved, then get in touch with myself or David, or just through the website. Be more than happy to have plenty more ideas and people behind what we're trying to do here. So, but otherwise, a nice plug there. So in terms of what we can do, so David, quick kind of 30-second plug for your session tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we've talked a bit about energy efficiency in homes. We will be having a session 6 o'clock tomorrow. Be there or miss out on some fantastic energy saving tips. But it's not going to be, it's going to be whatever you want it to be, really. I can do it in great detail, or I can keep it nice and simple, and you can just, we can adapt the whole talk, but don't miss it. And that will be followed by saving the world in 60 minutes.
Just why not? Might as well give it a go. So yeah, that's the plan. The last event is going to be pretty much like this. Probably plenty of whiteboards going on tomorrow as well. We want to generate in an hour as many ideas as possible as we can, just little things we can all do to help combat climate change. We have a page on our website, Ideas for Action, and the problem is we've got nothing on it. So we need your help. So that's the plan tomorrow. Come along, and it is going to be just very much like this. Just get loads of ideas, as many as we possibly can. And if we need more and more pages, then we'll make more and more pages. So again, check the website, and same old process, just join via Eventbrite. So hopefully as many of you can join us for that and see us off at the end of the final event for Ryedale Environment Week. But then apart from that, thanks for all your input tonight. It's been great. Thanks again to John and David for help with the questions. Hope to see you back here tomorrow.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.